All right. Hello, everyone. We're a little bit early. We're a couple of minutes or a minute before start time. We'll probably give everyone another minute or two, and then we'll get started. So. Okay, I think we'll get started, and those that continue to join, we'll continue to let them in. So, hello everyone. Thank you very much for your time and support in joining us for the Global KM Festival. This is the day 4 of the Australian chapter, and it's our final day for the Australian chapter. So really appreciate everyone that's joined, either this being the first one or multiple the last couple of days. Thank you for that. Today we are talking about KM and AI, and I think it's hard to avoid AI being pretty much everywhere. So we're keeping the last session, for this. Before we start into the session itself, I do want to talk about some housekeeping, just to let everybody know. So there'll be during the presentation, if you can keep your microphone off, that would help minimise any background noise that may come through. Cameras, we encourage you to have your cameras on, but that's optional. We do have a request at the end of the session for a group photo. So at that time, if you're comfortable, please turn on your camera, and you've got a couple of minutes to get your tops, your professional tops on, just in case. So do that, and at the end of there'll be a Q&A session at the end of the 2 presentations. So feel free to please submit your questions in the chat. We'll have Esther running the chat channel, and we'll be calling out those questions at the end there. Before we move in, I'd like to acknowledge acknowledgement of country. So if you're not familiar with that, it's something that we do in Australia to show respect for our Indigenous people. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the different lands on which we are joining from today. I would also like to pay my respect to their elders, and past and present. Thank you. All right, we're moving into, so there's there's 4 presenters with Moni and Pratek from Grey Chain, and I really appreciate these. Moni joining us from Germany. It's 3 a.m. in the morning over there, and Pratek joining us from India, a little bit closer, but still 7 a.m. so very early. Jess and Claire from Autogen, they're local, so but appreciate you guys spending time with us today. So I'll hand over to Pratek to start the first presenter from Grey Chain.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for passing it over. Hi everyone, I'm Prateek I'll talk about my intro in the next slide, but I want to talk about specifically talk about covering how AI is changing knowledge into more actionable knowledge. And the whole goal for this session is giving you a guideline of what's feasible, in terms of you might be hearing about things like RAG in knowledge, agents. So I'm going to try to cover the concept of agents, which in our opinion is changing the way people use knowledge and also contribute and manage knowledge. So I'm going to try to cover that today. A quick round of introduction. I'm Pratik, as I said. I'm a co-founder and head of AI at GreyChain. I previously I was director for knowledge product and IT at GreyChain. Oh, sorry, at Boston Consulting Group. Have spent about 9 years there, and before that, I was still in the KM industry with KPMG. Primarily, have 15 years of experience in the KM industry on the IT side. I'll pass it on to Moni to introduce herself.
Hi guys, thanks for organizing this. My name is Moni. I'm the Vice President Great Chain Europe. My knowledge management journey started 8 years ago at Deloitte, Germany, and continued by BCG, being a former KM team lead and KM manager.
Thanks, Moni. A little bit about our firm. We are primarily a services firm. We are into boutique customization of AI and AI solutions, and we have a lot of accelerators which allow companies to be able to adopt and build solutions around it. Most of our solutions, as you can imagine, AI can interpret knowledge very well. So most of our solutions are around knowledge management, but it expands beyond that scope. In just this year, 2024, we have done about 6 knowledge management deployments, but apart from that, other solutions related to knowledge in various areas. And these are all production go live. These are not POCs I'm talking about. I'm talking about full-scale solutions. We are also partners with Accenture in terms of doing GenAI deployments, both for Accenture internally as well as Accenture clients, and we are going to the market along with them. And we have recently done a partnership with Google in terms of going in the India market along with Google, especially in the government sector. We have done long-standing AI initiatives for UNICEF. And I am very passionate about gender-based violence. So I also serve on the AI advisory board for the USAID, UNICEF, and other organizations, specifically around gender-based violence and IT and gender-based violence. And knowledge plays a big part because you need to disseminate a lot of such information. So, some things that I'm very passionate about. I wanted to talk about the roles of AI agents in the world of knowledge and how it impacts the whole knowledge life cycle, be it while you're creating knowledge or you're contributing and curating. In terms of knowledge, which is hidden in communities and other areas like tacit knowledge, discovery, which was historically primarily search, and now it's becoming more and more chat-based prompting searches or prompting interfaces where you get answers. And lastly, one of the things that's also very important for KM folks is archival, right? If you have old information, invalid information, how can you use AI to, power those solutions, right? So across the life cycle, there are many things that you can do with AI. But to begin with, I want you to understand what agents does. And I'm pretty sure some folks know, but let me give you a quick example of an agent, right? Now, in this case, what I'm highlighting is what you can do is just like ChatGPT, you can go and ask a question and get the system to give you a response from all your knowledge bases. And when I talk about knowledge bases, it can be thousands of documents. It can be websites, which has a lot of information. It can be communities or community platforms, right? Like Facebook Marketplace or Facebook Workplace is one such community platforms a lot of company uses, or people are using Jive or people are using Team. So there are many such community platforms people use. A lot of organizations also have databases of information, like research databases, or you want to connect to external databases like FactSet, Economic Times, Bloomberg, things like those. And also you might have your own knowledge repositories in your organizations. So all of those become your sources. That can be SharePoints, they can be OneDrives, Google Drives, whatever Dropboxes you have, right? But one of the things when I talk about actionable knowledge that agents can do for you is you can send them to do particular tasks in all the areas of knowledge lifecycle, right? To give you an example, when you are contributing knowledge, you can actually get it to create new knowledge pages for you or knowledge content for you by sending an agent which is more, used to do doc generation, right? So what happens in this scenario is that either you're requesting an action or a query, and this can be human generated or fixed paths that people can take. An agent, which is typically, a core agent or an orchestrator, will actually evaluate that build a plan for you, and send it across various sub-agents in the organization to do the job, right? And the kind of agents that we are seeing emerging in the KM field are typically these, but there can be combinations and various things that you can build on top of this. To begin with, a very simple example is RAG, which is basically retrieval augmented generation, where you are retrieving content from your repositories, from your databases, and giving it to a large language model or an AI to interpret and give you an answer. Right. So that's the most common use cases. And you might have heard about this a lot, when you go to LinkedIn or when you talk about Gen AI. Right. But this allows you to connect multiple repositories and get a lot of answers in the way you want. And you can then combine answers from, say, 10 repositories, analyze them together, compare it, and give you results. Right. The second kind of agent is typically around databases. So if your information is in databases, SQL databases, structured databases, you can pull, like, for example, expert information, you want to pull skill information, you want to pull your taxonomy information. All of it can be pulled through the text to SQL agents. Even your survey data can be, extracted, like how many people are satisfied with this thing, how many people are, doing this kind of a job. So all of that information can be pulled through. The third one is an API agent, which fundamentally you can integrate with any application. Right. To give you an example, if you have a KM application, you can actually hit it to collect information or push any information into that system. Again, all through conversations. Right. Then there are agents which are specifically built, and I know our colleagues from AutoGen will talk about this, but there are document generator agents that folks build, right? Where people are going to do, you're going to get documents generated out of the system using your existing content. And the last is search, where you not only searching internal, but external content all over the internet. And what you can do on top of this is be able to, as I said, generate any kind of a response by mixing these knowledge signals, knowledge information from various sources, combine them together and get your answers, get generated documents, or hit any application to do the job on your behalf. Right. For example, for one of the organizations, we've built an HR knowledge system which allows you to read HR policies, HR procedures, HR documents from one repository, by being able to connect it to Workday to apply a leave on your behalf. So you can check what's the maternity policy of my company, and within the same query, write, can you apply a maternity leave on my behalf? Right. And it can go in that system and apply that. In that case, you are retrieving information using RAG, and you're hitting an API in Workday to push that information. That's where the power of agents and combining agents can help you build any KM flow or process that you want, right? Enable that either through conversations or through fixed flows. So here is an example of a very simple agentic flow where, in case you're given a task input, the agent will first, the orchestrator agent that I talked about, is going to build you an action plan, and then it's going to start executing it. First, it's going to start getting the data from various sources. It's going to start researching and analyzing that information and start generating. Now, one of the most common considerations around responsible AI that people are seeing is, how do I evaluate, right? How do I ensure the answers are great enough, right? That's where the power of responsible AI and using evaluation framework comes in. So all of these agent layers also have an evaluation layer, right? Where you can check the original question, the answer generated, and the source, and use AI itself to come up with a confidence score, right? But also give you citations and also get user confirmations if the response is great or not, and you can really improve the system using those signals, right? But citations is a good way of which I'll demo on how to achieve this. So this is just a quick example, but you can build, as I said, combining multiple such agents, any solution in your organization to do your job. As I said, a contribution agent, a curation agent, a sanitization agent, if that may, a automatic doc generation agent. So all of those flows can be powered using such multiple agents and combining them in any way you want. So my idea is to just get you those started with those use cases, and you guys can decide how do you want to build those solutions and look into those use cases in your organizations. So I'll cover 3 use cases very quickly. The first one, as I said, one of the key problems or key areas where productivity gains are required is during contribution of knowledge, right? A lot of people spend time on summarizing knowledge, tagging knowledge, sanitizing knowledge, right, before it gets contributed into platforms. This is where you can really use, an agent which is built for analyzing content, right? So whenever you contribute something, an analyzing agent will automatically tag the content against your taxonomy. It will even add terms to your taxonomy and recommend terms to your taxonomy overall, right? It's going to automate your workflows for various things. It can pull out information and automatically push through. right? But it also helps you, like based on the tagging, organize all your content in your organization with a lot less human intervention required, right? So imagine that you have HR content, sales content, legal content, it automatically gets put into the right folders and right structures without you investing a lot of time, right? And this is which is where it will start getting into a lot of personalization. But yeah, this is one example of a first level agent that you can use during your contribution lifecycle. The second is your knowledge delivery agent, and this is where concepts are really changing the way people consume knowledge, right? When you in today's world, when you're consuming knowledge, you might have a chatbot to get knowledge, you might have a search solution, or you might visit not contribution pages or asset pages or material pages, in your organizations. But one of the new ways that we are seeing knowledge being discovered is you are uploaded your new knowledge, and over last week's new knowledge, it automatically creates a TikTok reel for you, which is consumable inside the organization on a mobile device, right? It creates Snapchat like stories for you for the latest content and summaries from those stories. So instead of people just trying to come and consume and ask questions, you are actually delivering knowledge to their doorstep, which really increases or jumps the consumption. And we are seeing a great pickup of such new pieces. Or you might have heard about something called as Notebook LM from Google, right? Notebook LM allows you to auto-generate podcasts from a document. So what we're also doing for a lot of clients is that you upload documents in a particular area or a particular practice area or particular function. You see a group of documents and you can create a podcast so that people just while driving to office can hear about what's the new knowledge that got contributed in the last 1 week, right? And all that new content just gets summarized in an audio podcast. And if you're interested, you can come in and ask more questions, right? Again, through a voice agent. You don't even have to go to a different system, pick up your mobile phone, talk to it just like you talk to Siri and get your answers, right? So this is where we are seeing the power of agents really transforming the way people are consuming knowledge. The third area where we are seeing a lot of power of all of these solutions is research and analytics, right? As I told you, you are able to pull out content from web, knowledge sources, documents, SharePoints. But apart from that, also data sets, right? As I said, Bloomberg data sets, FactTech data sets, news data sets. Now imagine that you want to consume all that information. You can really talk to the data. And I'm really talking about business intelligence, right? So today you build a Tableau dashboard for charts and everything. But imagine that why do you build a chart? So that you can interpret information and give information. What if I can really give interpreted information directly by asking a question? So talking to data is also becoming one important way of not just from knowledge perspective, but analyzing and researching. And imagine that you have connected 5 sources, you pull all that information and get a research agent on top, which is just doing an analysis job across this and then giving you a generated document or even a podcast. Right. So combining those components together, you can really build amazing flows or solutions specifically to the way your organization works. Right. You don't have to prescribe to a particular knowledge management solution. You can really pick and choose what components join together and design your own flow. Right. Which is where agents are becoming very powerful. Um, I will show you a quick demo of a few examples of where such agent architectures have been used. And I think I'll just probably not, the idea is not to sell a particular platform. The idea is to, understand the concepts behind, the solution that we're using. So here is an example of a particular knowledge repository. This is one of the solutions that is, being adopted by a lot of our clients as a just direct solution. But what we are seeing is that um, in the traditional world of KM, and people are thinking a lot of AI will change a lot of way people contribute content. It will definitely improve your productivity and assist you, but a lot of concepts of managing content do not go away, right? For example, taxonomy management will not go away. You really need a good taxonomy to organize your content. So one of the things that's core to the platform is being able to organize or build your own taxonomies in the solution. So this will allow you to organize your various taxonomies. And why we do that is that if you add the right descriptions and synonyms, when you're uploading a document, say an HR policy, it's going to automatically tag it to HR, automatically tag it to policy on your behalf, right? And you don't have to tag all that content. So that becomes very powerful for you, and you can manage your taxonomies and link assets and link knowledge pieces automatically to that organization, right? In India, this is a very big problem in the government sector. They have a lot of scanned documents or scanned knowledge in files and folders all across government offices. Now they are seeing this as just a document organizer agent, where I just upload my scans and all my documents start getting put into right folders in the right departments automatically. So there are many small use cases coming out of each area of knowledge contribution and knowledge management, right? And you can then, in the solution, you can build endless taxonomy. So you can come in and create your own taxonomy in various things. Can have a tree hierarchy, multiple relationships, knowledge graph relationships. Again, you might have heard about those taxonomy terms. Um, we also have something which allows you to build permission groups. So I know that in organizations, you want to give permissions to only specific practice area content or specific function content. You might want to give people upload rights, not upload rights, right? Things like those. So all of those can be easily managed using the user management, using the roles and entitlement. And lastly, we have something called the data connections that allow you to connect your SharePoints, OneDrives, etc. Right. And so you don't have to re-upload your knowledge. AI is going to automatically consume that knowledge, organize it, right, in the right folders, and then present it to your user. Right. But one of the things that we are slowly promoting is that knowledge should be a democratic right in terms of contribution, and we want to promote a lot of contribution and hence give a lot of tools to the end user to contribute knowledge. So one of the few pieces that we have built around these solutions is that when you're uploading content, it's going to automatically summarize, automatically do taxonomy, and also visually understand your content, which is very important because the real world content which you're hearing on LinkedIn is not PDF documents, which are just text. There are graphs, there are images, there are flows, there are diagrams, which you need to understand. So visual models are really changing the way you interpret knowledge from an AI readability perspective, right? So running vision is also a very important aspect. So in this platform, as I said, one of the things we are promoting is, and you might have heard about a gray market problem in your organization as well, where people don't want to contribute knowledge for others, right? They just want to keep it on their local systems and local laptops. This was a very common problem in BCG. So one of the things that still is allowed in the system is you can tag when you're uploading content, you can tag it only to yourself. At least start using the power of AI and then you can just click a button and expand it to everyone once you feel that, okay, others can benefit. But at least your content starts coming to the platform, right? And if you are connected to SharePoint, automatically everything according to your permission gets pulled into the platform. You don't have to do anything. One of the other areas which I've heard, again, this is just a basic knowledge agent. You can do many things, you can do research, etc. But one of the things that we are also seeing is that language has been a big concern in the areas of knowledge, because a lot of your knowledge might be coded in just one language and stored in that, like primarily English in a lot of countries, right? So when using the power of AI, you can do a lot of that stuff in multilingual, and AI will do that job for you, right? So if you want to do that, like in this case, I'll give you another example. I had asked, this is one document where I have a curriculum for a Gen AI boot camp, right? This is all in English, but when I come in and ask a question in English, I can force the system to answer in Spanish. Right. So now your multilingual users can start using knowledge that way. Right. Again, basic flows, but the idea is that there are many such things you can do for organizations. And you can see a lot of information on these pages are visual information, which is very difficult to extract or interpret, which is where vision or vision-based RAG is becoming a very powerful solution. Right. So just giving you, quick examples. And again, last thing, um, mobile is also something that a lot of organizations are now experimenting, because historically reading PowerPoints was a big problem on a mobile device, right, or a PDF document. Now your knowledge is consumable in a chat format, right? So now you can just talk to your content. In this case, I can just come and ask a question to my content about anything I have in the solution, and it can give me an answer. Like, for example, I can come and say, show me content on bootcamp that you have. So again, on those agents fronts, I'll just add a small bit. And somebody asked the question, do we have to learn prompt engineering? You can actually use AI to improve your prompt engineering. You can see I did not ask a great question. It actually improved my question. It's going to subsequently improve my questions, right? So it now in this case, because I was looking for a document, it actually gave me the title of the document and direct citations of all the pages of the document, which I want to refer, right? Citations is allow you to do. I'll give you another very last quick example, and then I think my day
Yeah.
over time. This is just one example where you're asking a question and it's improving your question. But if you're asking subsequent questions, you can see I just said, please elaborate on conversational AI insights. But from a search standpoint, the system actually improved my query, right? Which is where I'm saying you can use these AI agents to improve how you interact with AI as well.
Mhm.
I'll take a pause here. This was just a quick demo. Happy to take
Yes.
questions.
That's really great, Pratik. I'm very impressed by it. I'm very impressed by the demo, but I'm also very impressed with the way that you can break the implementation of the product into multiple chunks, so you can start with the baby steps around ingesting and curating content, and then start consuming it, but in a controlled way. So I think that allows adoption to be manageable, and those early adopters to feel, I guess, more comfortable to extend on the usage of it. So that's really good. That's really good. No, I'm
Absolutely.
really impressed. I'm very impressed by it. There are a number of questions that's in the Q&A, but we'll visit that at the end. I'll hand over to Jess for AutoGen.
Thanks, Stan. Hello, everyone. Pratik, thank you. I've got a hard act to follow, so hopefully I can do a good job. I'm Jess. I'm from AutoGen AI. We are a company a little bit different to Pratik. We are harnessed by generative AI in our product. We are specifically designed to help businesses write amazing bids, tender, and proposal responses using their corporate knowledge. We started in 2023, and we're currently located across the UK, APAC regions, and Americas. We were released to the market about 6 weeks before ChatGPT, because our founder was absolutely perplexed and inspired by what generative AI could do to solve the pain points in the bidding context. So if we've got anyone in the room that is familiar with bidding and how hard it can be, you could probably appreciate what generative AI has done to simplify that workflow. So our story to date, we've had so much great insight to the knowledge management piece, particularly around this pain point for businesses, how to harness their corporate knowledge to write really compelling responses and grow their businesses as a result of it. So I'm sure none of these problems will be new. To kind of set the scene, we do talk at length with our organisations around their challenges they have around lacking centralised knowledge repositories, or they've got some knowledge repositories, but there's a lot of information in people's heads and disparate systems. They may not have formalised strategies, or they're trying to have them and they're just not compliant, not conformed to by everyone, and it's just really hard to access information throughout the process. So what we do is try and develop a solution that can address all of these problems, and particularly give them a good starting point around technology that can solve this business and potentially show examples of that working. But the big thing too is solving the key person risk that exists in this bidding function as well. So the opportunity that presented itself is that the computers can now not only read but write as well. The new technologies have advanced rapidly, showing the potential of revolutionising the way that organisations can tap into their repositories. But at the same time, trusting the outputs was a huge topic when generative AI first started to hit the ground. So it does talk about this education piece and understanding how can we trust the outputs, and how can we make sure that this technology is accessing accurate and relevant information for our teams, and also how can it help us solve that age-old maintenance problem of making sure that our repositories or knowledge is as up to date as it can can be as well. But we were having a quick chat before this session around the tacit knowledge problem for organisations and the amazing skill, or I guess the capabilities in the technologies to bring words to things that can sometimes be a challenge. It's been really nice to see our clients harness that ability through this technology. So similar to what Pratik mentioned, I think it's really important for us to understand kind of what's behind the hood of these solutions. So we've all heard about large language models, and they're essentially a box of words that are trained in all the digital content in the internet, and you know, that's not always up to date. So you know, the latest is probably early 2024. The owners of LLMs have become a little bit shy about sharing that, but we've got this retrieval augmented generation again that Pratik did mention, which has been the game changer on how the large language models can be used to produce accurate and relevant fact-based and kind of referenceable outputs as well. But by plugging those two things into the knowledge bases, it's you know, game changing. It has been a big step change for how corporate knowledge can be accessed through this technology. And to the point made earlier about by one of the participants around being a prompt engineer, like AutoGen AI was the first to employ prompt engineers, and we've learned about this linguistic engineering and started this to make sure that people that interact with generative AI enabled tools don't need to have the skill set. Prompt engineering is an actual profession. It takes a lot. So we want to make sure that technology does enable people without that skill set to get the best results out of it as well. But it is rapidly evolving, this technology. And I saw a question in there earlier around, you know, how do organisations make sure that not only their content remains current, but the technology is not obsolete. So this is a challenge that organisations that may have been embarked on building their own solutions earlier in the piece, just to start to see what they can do and with the technology, and now facing, they're like, how can we keep up with the evolution of the large language models and the different approaches that can be taken to harness the generative AI as well. But what we talk about a lot is this human in the loop factor through our solution. It's a drafting technology. It always recognises that generative AI is only useful if it's enabled by a human or actioned by a human when it comes to solving that writing use case. So it's the people, it's said here that, generative AI is never going to replace humans. And that's been proven time and time again, if you've been keeping up with the literature and the publications. But it is the people that use AI that will take the jobs of the people who don't. And that's, irrefutable at the moment. And employers are adopting this technology as key value propositions to attract the best talent. So that is what's happening in practice at the moment. But a good example is to start to consider when we're thinking about knowledge management and all of that, how we can apply judgment and our logic, the cognitive abilities that humans possess that computers don't. If we come back to large language models, are just a box of words and they work based on algorithms and things like that. So it's really remembering that, this technology can push us up the cognitive hierarchy, but we've got the judgment and the logic to determine what is good and what is not useful. So this helps us better understand how we approach the adoption of the technology and how what goes under the hood. So we just need to, if we think about, you can see on the slide there is obviously, it's starting to talk about is it a safe assumption to think about that the latest version of documents are always the best and most reliable? We have clients come to us asking, is the system going to be able to identify what the latest information is? And the question is, well, how do you always know what the latest information is? Is it safe to assume that earlier versions don't contain anything useful for your teams that they might need to draw on? But also, how do we determine what's right and trustworthy? when the system doesn't necessarily have that logic and judgment that we can also apply. So we need to kind of wear those sorts of hats when we think about how we maintain the solutions as well. So what our, I guess, research and development teams are learning about the technology, but also in the practice with our customers, is around each of the disciplines. And as organisations get larger, we've got different, divisions and streams within our businesses. And we're very inclined to plug in repositories of data and thinking from, if we're writing corporate, almost competitive information, or if we're writing marketing collateral or reports, we want to come from a lens of, what would you put your eyes on as a team to inform content. And the systems are really good at mining information, but as humans, we want to make sure that we've got the right content in these, I guess, in the database that the systems are reading through. So whilst we say, maintain smallish sets of information, it's just that saying of, the systems and technologies work best when they've got good quality or good information behind them to which it can be drawn on, remembering that it's a computer and it may not know, what's useful and what's not useful as well. But the great thing that large language models can do to help maintenance of knowledge that feed the retrieval augmented solutions is it can tell you what's been used most. So depending on how people are interacting with the solution, it's going to be able to signal to document managers or knowledge managers in organisations what's the most valuable piece of information that is being used within the document repositories, or what are people asking for that's not there, so that you can better understand how you can enhance the knowledge base there. But it can also help identify if things are being maintained in the database that no one's calling on. And that's also going to be useful in terms of identifying any maybe gaps in knowledge or redundancies in information that the organisation might need to look for as well. But the cool thing it can do as well is over time, depending on the behaviours and the retrievals that are happening in the system, it can start to preferentially sequence the documents that it looks into, acknowledging that it's inferring the value of that document based on the frequency at which it's being called on. So there's many things that the technology can do to inform and accelerate that maintenance task to help the human do it with greater efficiency and effectiveness as well. But when we come to the security aspect of generative AI, this is another thing we touched on briefly in the waiting room, is understanding what to look for as an organisation if you are embarking on a procurement for a generative AI-enabled knowledge management system. The top 3 things that we get asked before they'll even open the door for us in terms of prospective clients, and we still get asked it at onboarding with our customers, is where is it hosted? So the sovereignty question is absolutely so important. So if you're not just using your internal repositories, you might be using, such as our system enables, which I'll show you in a brief demo, it does enable storage of information in the system. But it's not just that, it's about the processing of the information as well. Is that happening onshore? Then we've got the large language models, which won't surprise you, is depending on what version you might be using an open source. Anything you put in it can train the models if you're not under a no retention agreement with the providers. So it is a really important thing to understand as an organisation. Are we using a closed off large language model? So none of our IP, our intellectual property, is being leaked or at risk of being exposed to the broader population that use those large language models as well. The third one, again, is around certifications. So you're looking at things like ISO, SOC 2, anything like that to make sure that, again, just like any other technology solution in our stack, ticks all of those security credentials and maintenance. And these three things also talk to that, that maintenance piece around making sure that if you do procure a third party, or you're thinking about, can we build something in-house, the focus on these and the capabilities required to make sure that the systems maintain that integrity is absolutely paramount. So without further ado, I have spoken a lot. I'm going to jump into our solution to give you a sense of what it looks like in terms of the knowledge management piece, but also how we retrieve information. So hopefully, if I click share, you can see my screen. Awesome. Fabulous. So this is AutoGen AI. It's affectionately dubbed Jenny, is our large language, our language engine. So our product, I'll just quickly show you how our documents are managed. So we have a library. So because we are typically working with bidding teams and things, there is a desire to have a quite curated library. So most of our customers will prefer to load their repository of information directly in the solution. But we do also have abilities, as you would expect, to integrate with other knowledge management hubs within organizations, so that be SharePoint or other sorts of technologies like the CRMs and so forth that might exist. And then have these beautiful kind of file structures that enable us to pinpoint as well if we're doing queries through the system by topic. So if we want to be honing in on, for example, construction, I might work in the construction area, or the cybersecurity, I can tell the system to look at that. So that's pretty straightforward in terms of a maintenance task. But we've also got this answer bank, which we use the generative AI to help inform populating like repeat questionnaires or so forth that you might receive from potential vendors. But these are gold source. So this problem we're solving here is that we need a central repository of information that is typically kind of signed off or rubber stamped as the corporate messaging that can sit within the solution and be available to teams to retrieve as they need to. So it kind of sits apart from the general repository of information because it speaks to that kind of, making sure that it is our gold standard and having that messaging in there to articulate whatever we need as an organisation. Now, we also have our research assistant, which is arguably one of the favourite features of our product, in which it enables us to mine information through the library. So I'm just going to copy and paste information there. It's not magic. I'm just doing paste. So what we have here is a piece of a product which might be familiar to anyone that's seen a solution where you have like a chat query that has a chatbot or something like that that's been built in an organization to start mining information. So we've got a library AI here, which is doing that retrieval augmented generation approach, semantically searching through the libraries, because this RAG enables looking for context or synonym-based searching. So it transcends that or solves that problem of keyword searching, because if you don't know the keyword, how do you find the information? So what we've got here is, once we ask the questions, and I'm doing a query based on our library, and I'll also do an internet one too. And this then goes out to both sources. And as I mentioned, it's going to be looking beyond the words that are there, but it's going to pull anything that's related to the statement that's made here. So I shouldn't have to think too much about how I frame it. It should just be a simple question, as if I've given a direction to someone to help me look for something. So the production of unique content is really important to address the large language models and things like that, making sure that we've got unique content coming out every time, but it will synthesize that response and give us a unique answer each time that we can use for whatever purpose that we need. And then we get provided the actual references to where that content has come from. So speaking to that whole referenceability piece, ensuring that we know where the information comes so that we can apply that human judgment and logic as to whether we think it's useful and enough for the purpose. So here what we have again is an internet search. So we've got this great little source here that we can see these websites coming through. And the final piece that I just wanted to show you before we wrap up is how we can actually extend on information from the library to Kickstart. So here what we've got is the Knowledge Management Global Network supports its members by. So this is where you would come to essentially start responding to a question or requirement coming from, within a proposal or what have you, that you need to respond to a client query or something like that. We've got the option to go into the library and actually answer that based on the content within the library. So these are the certain ways in practice that the generative AI can be used to enable the human to get off the blank page, but also mine into the knowledge management repositories that are connected to the system. So I will stop there and take any questions. I think we're going into Q&A anyway, Dan. So
yeah, we are. Thanks very much, Jess. I'm really impressed with that demo, and then taking through that. I really, you mentioned that word around analytics and usage, and being able to train the solution that's there. So not only just inject it with the initial knowledge and the repository there, but curating it over time. And that's really good, and taking advantage of AI to be able to do that. So that's
definitely. Thanks, Dan. Yeah.
Esther, how are we with? I haven't looked at the chat at all. So, how are we with the Q&A coming through?
Well, I've been doing really well. Quite a bit of conversation going in there as well. So I'm going to jump around and potentially ask some of the questions a second time, just to maybe give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more. And because it's my favorite, I'm going straight back to the first one, which was about prompt engineering, because it's such a big topic. Because in a company, people are training themselves to be prompt engineers so they can make the best of it. But I know both of you have a sense that AI can do that, or a product can do that. So I really just wanted to maybe get a bit more from both of you on what that might mean for companies or people.
I can give a quick bit on that. Definitely a lot of LLM providers are working on improving prompting by the model itself, and we are seeing the new Owen model from OpenAI is changing that game a lot. Right now, as part of the solutions we are building, what we're seeing is we have to add a lot of context, from that perspective. But in a strong way, you also need to ensure that you pass a lot of context of the user to the system. So one of the principles that we're seeing is attach the profile of the user while they're asking questions and start giving more personalized information. So if you are working in the energy sector and you've done such and such kind of projects and content before, then that can really influence the way your prompt gets enhanced, right? So providing that context to AI, even to improve your prompts, is very important, because otherwise it's primarily just improving your English a little better if you just ask the model to just improve the prompt on your behalf without the additional context. So you still need to ensure that context of your user and what they're working on is definitely passed on to the system. So that's just one suggestion there.
Jess and Claire, have you got anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We work with very busy teams, very time-poor teams. Our solution brings in this concept of linguistic engineering so that the human doesn't have to think about how to prompt the solution. Because if we think about, prompt engineering and getting the LLMs to do what we want it to do, it's quite hard. It's quite a talent, and as the technology matures, there should be less expectation on knowing how to fine-tune prompting. But as Pratik mentions, the technology should enable the human to get the best quality output in the context which they're asking for it. So fine-tuning of the LLMs is happening now. That technology is really advancing, which will enable geographical relevance to outcomes. So what we're seeing is that we can now start to have outputs that are relevant to the language, whereas until not long ago, everything came out in like American English, unless you have asked it to specifically translate into a different language. So we're moving away from that, and that speaks to the keeping up to the evolution of what's happening in the technologies. So but yeah, I hope that answers the question, because
Yes, super. I'm going to go through some of the questions that I think both of you could answer, because there are some technical ones in there, and I have put everyone's contact details as well, if people want to have further chats outside that. But the next question, do you have any tips for how you might prepare a business for rolling out a Gen AI solution? Who wants to pick that one up first?
I can start. Oh, sorry, Pratik, do you want to go?
No, I was saying I'll let you guys answer first.
I think have a very clear set of metrics of what success will look like for you. So clearly define what success looks like and just start. We were speaking earlier on the call before all of you joined, and Pratik was mentioning that he'd worked with some companies that started 3 years ago and they're on their 4th deployment, and they're, the knowledge that they would have on generative AI in their business and the way to adopt that and engage their staff looks so different to the people that were talking about it 3 years ago and are still talking about it now.
I can recommend a very quick framework. Gartner has published a very good generative AI adoption framework. I can post a link in the chat as well. But it just allows you to talk about how you can start with first identifying your use cases, prioritizing the easy ones, high impact ones first, and just go with 1 use case or 2 use cases max. And then think about scale. Don't think about how it's going to change the way I'm going to change my work. Start with high impacts, easy implementations, and that gets you a lot of value, and then you can actually prove out and get more budgets and start rolling out things in your organization. And also it becomes a little less scary when people start using the solutions instead of just thinking, oh, AI is going to change my, take away my job.
Yeah.
Actually, people, when they start realizing AI is not that smart as what people are, portraying it to be, they start seeing it as a peer solution to be able to help them do their job better.
I might just add one comment to that is identify the problem that you're solving first. So there is this imperative to adopt AI, which, we can't ignore, but with any sort of technology implementation, to bring your team along, they have to understand how it's going to benefit them, and what problem you're solving for them through the adoption of it. So that's really important as well.
Maybe one thing to add also from my side, my experience was always to find the right people, like allies within the firm, who are also enthusiastic about Gen AI, and also form a kind of ambassadors around them, promoting these kind of use cases and solutions internally. So you can have also grassroots initiatives pushing these kind of Gen AI solutions forward.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you. It was great to have all of your insights in that, and you've very handily sort of started to bring the people in and led towards the next question, because we've talked a little bit about data ethics, and there was a question earlier in the chat on that. But what about the ethics of the people side of things? Because we are getting companies saying, "Oh, AI is going to fix anything," which makes people at work feel nervous. So, what are your thoughts around the ethics and the people side of Gen AI adoption?
Well, sorry, Pratik, did you want to go?
No, please go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's inevitable that people are going to start thinking, oh dear, like I was one of the earlier clients that we had, we showed the solution to one of the team members, and her jaw dropped and she thought, oh my gosh, my job's on the line. And, before she actually realized that this is stuff that used to keep her up until midnight doing these fine tuning of things that could otherwise have been, now delegated to the system. And we use this saying of pushing the human up the cognitive hierarchy. So there's a really good case study in radiology that we talk about, which we can share as well. That it doesn't make jobs obsolete. It just enhances the humans that are delivering on their day-to-day jobs. So it's just making sure that ethically you're understanding how it's going to fit in and taking the team members along the journey with you.
Yeah, the jury's still out there in terms of the people aspect, but what we are seeing is when people start using these solutions, it's much more, friendly. I can give you a very quick example. We also looked into an agent for proposal acceleration for one client where they used to read a 600 pager, right? And the first level reading was fine, but when a corrigendum comes after this proposal is being submitted, it's an 800 pager with 600 Q&As. Nobody wants to read that. So when you start using that to compare that document and getting through all of those nuances, they start seeing, oh, there's great value, and it's gonna, now the same person who was doing maybe a proposal a month or 2 proposals a month, they are now doing 5 or 6, and they are now the heroes in their organization in terms of more productivity, right? So that's where, you start using it for your productivity and you'll see a change.
Thank you. Dan, did you want to?
Yeah. No,
just got 5 minutes left. I know there's questions, but we could keep going forever. But I think I'll hand back to you.
Yeah. No, it's really good, and it demonstrates the the topic that is AI, and then all the discussions that are around it. But definitely, thanks Esther for facilitating that Q&A. Questions that I think we'll communicate that, and we'll certainly try and get those answered offline. I do want to close the session, given it is the last day. So I want to also invite Pratik to acknowledge the week as well, and thank everybody else. But for this session, I really want to thank Moni, Pratik, Jess, and Claire for the presentation and insights and demo of their respective products. And certainly navigating the different time zones that are involved there. Thanks the audience for joining and registering and coming along and participating in the conversation that we've had. Hopefully the sessions that we've had provided you some ideas to explore. And lastly, I want to thank my co-hosts. So Tracy, Esther, and Anshu. You guys have been fantastic pulling this together. We're not event coordinators by any stretch, but it's been great. So thank you for supporting today's session. While I've got the audience, can I ask for a group photo? Amit, are we ready for a group photo?
Yes,
cameras on.
So if I could request everybody to put their cameras on, and while I try to get this right.
Yeah, if you're comfortable.
Yes.
I'm sure you got a question.
That's all right.
All right. While Amit's doing that, I do want to mention that we do have an in-person meetup. So in Brisbane at the Riverland, Sydney Barangaroo House, and Melbourne at the Garden State Hotel. So from 4:30 to 6:30 tonight. Please join if you can, and continue the discussions. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you so much, Dan. As you've briefly mentioned as well, I wanted to thank all the speakers and acknowledge that you've been joining us from different time zones and different geographies. And some of the speakers from previous sessions are in the attendees as well. So, big thank you to everybody. And if you haven't registered for our in-person meetups, jump onto that train, bus, ferry. We look forward to seeing you at 4:30 at the respective locations.
Cool. All right. Is anything else? Have we done the photo, the group photo?
Yes, we have the photo now.
Okay. Cool. Fantastic. All right. Well, that concludes the session. And aren't you just posted the link for the event, Bright? And yeah, please enjoy the rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you in the afternoon.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.